We're gonna wait. We're gonna wait a few seconds for everyone to join in. But thank you so much, Mr. Rajkumar Mohanram, for joining us today to talk a little bit more about your background in Microsoft. So with that said, let's get started. Just to give a little introduction on him, he is the Vice President and Head of Engineering at Product at Microsoft, leading the Indian Development Center. And so could you please introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so I lead the Windows and Devices organization in the India Development Center.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Microsoft for close to 24 years now.
Wow.
And had a enriching career, which has allowed me to pursue my passion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm deeply fortunate and privileged to have been a part of the technology advancements over the last 2+ decades.
Wow.
So
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself at the heart as an engineer who got to go do what he dreamt of. And
Wow.
Microsoft has provided me the platform to do so.
Great. That's amazing. And so with that said, how did you get started in the Microsoft journey? How was your early on work experience?
Before I go further, I just want to say, first of all, it's a privilege to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I was looking at the journey and the modest beginnings of SacHacks and the work you're doing. It's there's no better time to be doing the kind of things we are embarking in terms of creating a culture of hacking.
Mm-hmm.
And getting aspiring folks into this field. This is the best way to do it.
Right.
Let me start there. Start talking about my own start. I think I started somewhere just around the .com era, the boom
Mm-hmm.
phase, just before it bust, is kind of how I would describe it. And it was back in the day of the internet was just taking off. It was way before the cloud or the tablet or the mobile era had even come into being. Internet was where the wave was, and the tidal wave started around that time. And I remember being very much eagerly looking forward to being a part of Microsoft. I went to school in Urbana, Champaign,
Mm-hmm.
and did my master's there. That was where I knew I wanted to be in computers somewhere around my high school, and then got into doing my undergrad in College of Engineering, Guindy, Anna University,
Mm-hmm.
which is where I think I got my foundational in CS, and then getting into UI/UX was a dream, because there I got to learn more about, I would say, my biggest learning there is more about what it means to be independent.
Mm-hmm.
And think and not just go with a book-based learning, but to learn about practically how to learn. And so that prepared me really well for my career early on in Microsoft. I joined Microsoft right out of
Wow.
I went from campus interview to get placed there, and started as an engineer working on what was then the Microsoft EE division.
Oh, wow. So in both your undergrad and grad experience, what were some things that you did to make the most out of your college life? And how did you network with professors, individuals, and professionals?
Yeah, I was a very shy individual back then. I think in some ways one could argue I am now, but I managed to hide it in the professional realm of my projected extrovertedness. But
Okay.
back in school, I don't think so. I was networking with the professors. If you go to it, I was very studious. I remember that much. I was very much into hitting the books and being very ingrained into doing really hard work. So for me, the grounding which I got from my parents was the significance of hard work and grit. I wouldn't call myself the smartest person in any room, but I think I would feel reasonably not feel immodest to call myself one of the hardest person working in any room. Right. So that's kind of how I established myself even early on in my career, is through hard work and grit and doing the whole 9 yards, and always at it. As I may not know how to solve a problem. I remember early on when I was, whether it's math or physics, when you didn't understand concepts, and there were people who were, I would say, 10x more smarter than me, who just got it and were able to do it. For me, it was more the applicability of going and applying and practicing and trying and working through it and never giving up. So I would say, sometimes there are people, and that's something for any aspiring student who doesn't feel that they got, just work through it. And as long as you put in the effort, results will follow. I think I'm myself a testament to that.
Oh, wow. I think from what I understand, it's all about effort and aspirations. I think if you dream about it, you're going to make it happen. And I think it's a very important life lesson to take from you. And so just jumping into a few more questions, like what are some of the biggest trends in operating systems and software development that you see shaping the next decade or so?
I think it's a fantastic, question and very pertinent. I think the biggest thing that we're seeing is the integration of AI pervasively in everything. It's not just operating system, it's just the tip of the spear. And obviously technology is the forefront of where AI is disrupting, but I think AI is disrupting everything from agriculture to industrial manufacturing. But I think AI integration is a big disruption operating system. Operating system of the future are not going to be static systems. They're going to be dynamic modular systems that have integrated. Number two is they're going to be very personalized. The operating system of the future is not something that it looks the same for every human being. For what it is for you will be looking very different than what it is for me. Right? And then there's the aspect of more integration of edge compute as well as cloud integration. You're going to see more and more things happening on the edge, more and more things happening on the cloud. And that's why you see what the traditional refrigeration of operations is what you see on your Mac or on Windows, on your PC or your laptop. But if you look at it, truly, operators have already broken out of all of those in terms of not just the phones. Even it's just you see them in your watches, your smart watches. Everything is running some version of an operating system. It's be there in your glasses. I don't think so there's going to be anything you wear or use that does not have some integration of a cloud-based operating system. And that's the other thing I would say is a lot of the computing is now going to be more powered on the cloud and on the edge and not necessarily fully running on there. And so there's also the aspect of integration of AI models and aspects of being more intelligent and smart in addition to being personalized. And that's, I think, is here to stay. Nothing is going to be what it was. You're going to see a constant evolution of how things are evolving at a pace that some of us are finding it even hard to keep up.
Okay, which makes totally sense. I think AI is totally around us, regardless of if we know we're using it or not. But on an ethical aspect, how do you? Many argue that it's ethically growing too fast and it's hard to regulate, and AI could take over some systems, lose jobs. So what do you have to say about that in terms of career development and ensuring that AI doesn't take over the world, as they say?
Yeah, I think if you go back in time, every phase of evolution or a major shift always had the believers and always had a whole set of people pretty worried about it, whether it was the invention of the wheel. If you go back in time and how people looked at that, if you look at the invention of the typewriter, you can go look at it. People thought a whole set of people will be out of jobs. And, whether it's the invention of, the mobile devices or the phone or the PC even, what people thought and what it would disrupt and a whole set of, industry. I think what people are in all of those evolutions, one thing is people are only able to see what is likely to be disrupted, but not what is likely to be created.
Wow.
And so for me, if you go back, none of them has disrupted mankind in a way that has set them back. Almost every one of those has put us on a path to even more progress to a place where we are today. So if you can trust and believe the fact that every such disruption has resulted in new innovation, that has brought, the typewriter brought the mainstream, what we see today in terms of technology, so it's kind of the forebearers of. And so for me, AI in that context, yes, is it disrupting a certain set of roles and technology, as always will do? I think it's the possibilities of what it's going to be creating and what kinds of opportunities we as humans will have in that future. It may be hard to see it today, but I have to wish to believe as an optimist and as somebody who's studied history that we evolve, we adapt, and there will be a whole set of new possibilities that will be created with AI that we will be on the cusp of, on the forefront of leveraging and capitalizing on to evolve ourselves.
Okay, very, very interesting. And while we're at the ethics topic, how do you see jobs changing? Because right now we develop full stack platforms, cloud, but with new AI coming out every day, there's automatic processes that do it. And how do you see the job shift to be like?
I think I've talked about a few things, right? Number one, AI is here to stay, right? So when the biggest shift I expect to see is for us to all be embracing AI in what we do. That starts with development tools. If you look at the development of people who are developing code just even a year ago, and the people, how you're writing code even today, and myself included, the amount of, whether it's ChatGPT or Copilot or GitHub Copilot, if you're using Visual VS Code, it's just, it's like calculator before and after. There was a time that calculator didn't exist. So for you to really understand the shift, you have to look at, there were people doing math before calculator was invented. It was all handwritten, everything, from every aspect of it.
Right.
And you take it, and today, if you were to do any advanced math class, I want to see how many of them do it without a calculator. Right? And because that fundamentally transforms. So you applied your energy to leveraging the concepts, not in terms of how you solved it manually. It was not about manual toil.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So basically, every part of evolution is about reducing the toil. Whether it's the typewriter, think about what went away. It's a manual toil. Whether it's the wheel, which we take away, it is a manual toil. Before that, people. So the amount of time you spent on something is reduced. So same here with AI. There are people who think about like, oh, is that cheating? Is that, I think it comes back to how you use it in what context.
Wow.
So for a developer to not use AI in today's day and age, I think is almost foolish, because you are doing things with more toil than somebody else who's going to do it in half the time or 1/10 the time, because you want to spend your time on creativity. So for me, number one is the leveraging of AI in development. Number two is your creativity is now even more at the forefront. In the past, you would say it was 80% grunt and 20% creativity. I think the new AI is brought to the fact that maybe it's only 20% grunt and 80% has to be creativity, which means you've got to have the idea, you've got to go after the right user problem as a developer, and that becomes the forefront. Early on, it didn't matter. The 80% of the effort was in people's could make it because sometimes people have the greatest ideas. You've heard of this. The idea is great, but the execution was flawed. You would now start seeing that the execution with AI is reduce the time where most people have the same toil for execution, which means that the merit of the idea and the user problem it solves becomes even more important now than it did, say, in the last 2 decades.
Yeah. And I think it goes to show that using AI and cheating off AI are two different things. So please keep that in mind during the hackathon experience. But yes, as Mr. Rajkumar mentioned, please make sure to leverage AI to build the next great project. And you never know, if 15 years ago, it was really hard to start a startup, but now it's become so much easier, and we're always here to be your mentors. And so if you were competing in a hackathon today, I'd like to take the shift off Microsoft and try to understand your approach to hackathons. How would you approach your problem solving and innovation to stand out in a hackathon? What aspects would you try to do to make the most out of a hackathon and present to a judge?
I think start with a user-facing key problem. A lot of times people are fascinated about technology in a hackathon. I think I'm a big believer that technology is a means to an end. I have to use AI. I have to make it look cool. I have to look at how it looks, how it appeals. All of those are secondary. The step one is, do you really have a problem that needs solving? And is a problem that users are really struggling with? Could be a small problem. It doesn't have to be, oh my God, problem. Sometimes the simplest things, take WhatsApp. What did it solve? It didn't solve basically. And texting existed before that. There was Skype before that. If you look at what did WhatsApp solve, somebody has to go back and answer it's as simple as it eliminated the friction for somebody to get in, which means one thing it did was sign in. It made it that all you needed was a phone number to get into it.
Right.
You didn't need to create an ID. You didn't need to go think about it. If you really think about it, messaging has been there forever. Yahoo Messenger for people who lived in the 90s. MSN Messenger for people who lived to the 2000s. Skype for the people who lived to the 2000s. It's huge. It's not like messaging was reinvented. They just made that seamlessness for anybody, somebody who didn't have any tech skills. It just bootstrap with their phone number and you're in. And after that, if you look at what it offered, there was nothing it was offering that didn't already exist prior to that. So it comes back to solving a very niche user problem of, simplest of how do I get users in, and then provide a very simplistic interface. It was not a lot of bells and whistles. It was very text-based, very simple to begin with originally. Later is when the other things came on board. Right. So first one is the user problem. I always say is paramount. Next comes is how are you looking at collaborating with people, finding people you can partner with. When it comes to hackathon, I always believe it's not the strength of who you are. It's the strength of the people you collaborate with. Right. Finding like-minded people, finding people who have complementary skills to bring in. When you can partner together to make something 1 + 1 being 3. So I think there's an aspect of that. The next one I would say is leveraging emerging technologies. That's again a means, but not the end. It's like leveraging what is happening out there, figuring out what you do being done differently. Because sometimes it's also about how you go about solving the problem rather than what is solving. Because sometimes there are two implementations. The only thing is one of them used a creative, new, unique way to do it. The other one went the whole classic route. Right. So sometimes it's about that novelty of what are you doing and how are you doing it also matters. But I think that's secondary to still going after the right problem to go solve in a simplistic manner. And last is about delivering a compelling presentation.
Right.
It's like, you all know about this, and that's the last 20%, right? Yeah. There are sometimes great ideas, one of whom wins out because somebody landed the stuck the landing. Which is basically I made sure that the idea, no matter how great it is, it resonates with the target audience. So you need to figure out what is your pitch in that short time for you to be able to capture that.
And would you say talking to your potential customers helps a lot in developing your MVP?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You have to be out there testing. And sometimes it's not about going out and people say, oh, it's very expensive to do users. Sometimes it's about just your network of people. If your product is appealing to students, just find people around you. If your product is towards Gen Z, go find people in your network, send it out to them, get their feedback. If your product is towards a different generation, target people within your own network to lean in, get their input, talk to a lot of people. One of the things my manager used to say is like, nobody invented something by sitting in a room. You got to be out there talking to people, and testing out your idea. You say, hey, here's the thing, giving it in people's hands and seeing, is it working? And you'll quickly see if somebody's struggling through it. You can't say, okay, let me tell you how to do it. That itself goes your idea, is if people are having to have a learning curve in terms of getting it.
Right. And that I think connects with the whole process of Agile development cycle. So do you just want to really quickly go over that whole process for new hackers and how the Agile development process kind of helps reiterate an idea and not spend too many resources on one fixed solution?
I think a big part of any Agile is, starting with understanding your requirements, your target customer, target audience, right? And knowing your idea for what the core of it. A lot of times you get caught up in the technology. I think I always remind people is write it down. I'm a big believer in the power of writing things down, not just in your head, because writing is seeing, because sometimes even the best ideas when written down, if it looks like crap, maybe there is some merit to it not looking as great as it was in your head. So write it down, share it with, people in your close circle, who you trust to get their input, feedback, and know the requirements. What is it going to be? What is the simplicity at the core of it? What is going to be? And then aspect of as you build it, you got to build it in an iterative fashion. It's not about, I don't think, gone are the days where we took it off and went and spent 2-3 weeks or 3 years. I remember being part of the company where we used to take 3 years to build something and put it out there, and people used to stand in lines in the store shelves to get it. In today's day and age, it's all about putting it out, experimenting in a tight loop where the stuff trickles down to users, and in a ring-based manner where you get it to 1% of your users, get what the feedback, iterate, improve, and it's an experimental model. There's nothing called a full cycle. So a big part of Agile is being able to experiment your thing with smaller chunks in terms of doing it and getting it out. Having, whether you're using Six Sigma or whether you're using Scrum, what are the models you take? You've got to be doing it in smaller modular chunks where you're putting it out and simplifying and experimenting and learning with the user. It's not about doing things without the user. User has to be in the loop all the way from requirement stage, all the way to flighting, and all the way to shipping.
Wow. Okay. No, it makes a lot of sense. And so based on all this experience you talk about, if you were to restart your life from maybe your undergrad or just after postgrad, what is one advice you'd give to yourself so that you could maybe succeed even better, or something that you would like to leave our hackers away with?
Yeah, I think I can go back into what I had written in my LinkedIn blog post. As part of my career journey, I had written a blog post around a couple of years ago, and I talk about this in the terms of my lessons distilling from my almost 20 plus years in the tech sector, and especially Microsoft. I think is number one is stand out and be unique. Don't be in a race to fit in. A lot of times, whether it's in college, whether it's in grad school, whether it's undergrad, whether it's in professional, any career you start, people are always in a rush to become like everyone. And I always tell is the longer you can stay unique and the longer you can be standing out, the more likely you are going to have accelerated growth, an impact, because people see you for who you are.
Okay.
So I think number one is that desire and the willingness to not be in a race to fit in. Right. Number two is having what I call the desire to create win-win, and being empathetic and not just looking for what's in it for me, but always having the thoughtfulness to look at what's in it for them, the other person on the other side. How do I find a win-win? Too often, I think there are some of us who look at our own self-interest first. And I always believe the difference between somebody who's gone further and somebody who's gone far is that difference of looking for what's in it for the other side and finding a win-win. Because the more you can find win-wins, the more you will have people rooting for your success. The more you can't look for win-wins and you look for win-lose, you might have won that battle. The next battle, there's not going to be somebody who's want to come in, because they know that you're a guy who's going to leave a little bit of somebody behind, right? The third, I would say, is the aspect of looking for creating impact. A lot of times we all are in the quest of glory and grit and all that stuff. But I think I always say the success, the ones differentiating the truly successful from the has-beens is the ones who focus on what is the impact of what I'm doing, the impact on my team, impact on my product, impact on my customer, impact on my company, impact on the society and mankind. Anything you do, you got to understand the impact you're creating, and the more you can be impact driven, I believe the more it allows for us to do the right things in the right way. And the last I would say is stay curious a little bit longer. And I think that growth mindset of curiosity, whether it's 20 years in the career, whether it's 2 years, whether you're in the first year or in the fourth year in college, I think you just have to have the hunger to want to learn more. Gone are the days of I am a know-it-all. And you're hungry to be, I'm going to be the one who knows everything. I think, in fact, the ones who will go furthest are the ones who are having the mindset of I want to be the learn-it-all. I'm going to be, wherever I go into a room, I'm going to be the guy who wants to learn. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to be asking questions. I'm not going to be the guy who has all the answers. I'm going to be the guy who has all the questions. And it's a guy or girl. And I use it in a gender neutral way. But that's kind of how I think about it, is having the mindset to be a learn-it-all.
Okay. And so I think it all comes down to, learn it all, try to identify a problem, try to solve that problem. And I think no product can be developed without identifying the problem and trying to find its customer segment. Who are you going to impact and what aspects you're going to impact and how does it look like at a global scale?
And working collaboratively. I think that's a key aspect of it. This is not a world where you want to be alone. This is a world where you want to be partnering with people, finding people that you can, work with, collaborate. The world is shrinking as we know it. It doesn't matter where they are, but they're the best ideas. It's about the idea and the implementation, and the best way to collaborate and bring people along is going to go further.
Okay, that's great. And so a follow-up question I wanted to ask is, can you share a time when you faced a major setback and how you went about it?
Yeah, so for me, it's pretty personal. For me, people know only the success part of everybody's journey, right? Nobody talks about the lows or the things that sets you back. For me, I think the blessing for me is my setback in my professional career happened way earlier in my career. I was just a year into Microsoft, and I was one of the individuals who was impacted by one of the layoffs. People do not even realize, it could happen to anyone. And it was not personal. The division I was part of, they were shutting and down and downsizing that division. And it's one of those things you hear today all the time. So maybe it's pertinent story for today's generation of people who looked at as oh my God, what happened? Yeah. For me, it happened very, very early in my career. Now I'm 24 years in the company, and people look at me, I look up and say, hey, I'm reasonably successful. But it was the year into my journey, and I was part of a reduction in force where we had a business unit that was scaling down substantially, and I was one of the people who had let go. But that said, that setback taught me a lot, which is to look at myself well beyond what I am in a specific role, and look at myself and have a little bit of self-care and trust my capabilities and not feel smaller because of what can happen to any one of us. Any one of you. It doesn't matter whether you're smart or not smart, whether you're the most confident or not confident, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. There's nothing personal about it for me. So that helped me look at this as this is just a professional journey. And in the journey, there will be roles that will come and go. And that setback created a lot of grit in me. It created a lot of self-confidence in me because I had to heal and I had to, at that moment, it was very deprecating for me. I felt very small. Yeah. I felt that it was personal, but when I realized it was not personal, they were not looking at me as, okay, what did you do? Yeah. It was more about the business had a business. So if I look at now anything in the tech sector as just a job, and you do it not because the company owes you anything, you do it because you are passionate about it. Yeah. So that moment has shaped me in my actions. In fact, I would call my success now directly result of that life-changing moment, because now I go into work thinking about what can I do with the role I have and what impact I want to make, not because the role owes me anything, because I want to do it. Yeah. Right. So it's where you become your own boss in some ways to say, this is the role and what I can do the most with it. What can this role do for me versus vice versa. Right. And so that mindset of just going in every single day since then, I go into the mindset of wanting to make impact, wanting to do my best job and doing it for myself, not because I need to give something back. It's because I want to do it. And in the process, if I can have impact on the company and the product, those are all fantastic. And that's what you eventually see. But it has to start from self of wanting to do it because you want to, not because the company expects you to, or the team or the manager expects you to. You working for yourself. So for me, that made me my own entrepreneur in a way. Even though I'm at Microsoft, on most days I would go into work looking forward to what I need to do to get my job done, not what somebody else wants me to do.
So it's like don't predict the future, but try to make the most out of the current day possible right now. And I think that's very important. And these 2 days is just don't worry about what happens in terms of who wins, who doesn't. I think everyone's a winner here because everyone takes some ideas out of this experience. Either it could be networking or it could be building a beautiful project. Regardless of if it wins or not, I think it's just a journey, and everyone's journey shapes themselves. So if you don't win at this hackathon, you'll win at the next hackathon. But it's never about predicting the future. It's about making the most out of who you are.
Absolutely. And the only thing I'll add to that is make sure you are giving it your all, and make sure you're really passionate about whatever you do. Make sure it's not a task. It's not an assignment. If you're looking at it from that perspective, it's not genuine. Make sure you're in it to really make a difference. Not even if it's not about winning. It can be about winning, but it's about making a difference more paramount than winning, because you don't want the winning or not to take away anything in terms of the effort you put in. And be authentic, be genuine. And as you said, right, it's not about cheating your way through it. It's about genuine ideas. It is about your future. Think about this as an avenue of learning life skills. I look at, I didn't get to do too much of this when I was in a undergrad. If I could go back in time, I did. Maybe it's my exposure, maybe it's my networking, maybe I was too cooped up in my own academic journey. I didn't get out there myself. I wish one thing I would have done is gone out there with not the aim of winning, but the aim of participating and gaining valuable life skills in the process, the networking aspect of it, the idea aspect of it. How do you translate what was a germ of an idea into something that you can put out there for people?
Got it. And so I think a major aspect of a hackathon defines a learning journey. And how do you go about learning a new technology or a new idea or something that you're going to set your foot into, something new at Microsoft?
I think it's a great, right? One of the moments, I'm one of the exec leaders who's helping with creating the reskilling of employees in the India Development Center. I have the privilege to be able to participate in that. I lead what is known as the Learning, Career and Capability Development in India Development Center. And one of the big aspects of it is reskilling. And what does reskilling mean is that what you learned or know doesn't matter anymore, because technology today is evolving at a pace that none of us can even keep up with. What was in December the hottest thing is right now people have forgotten and moved on to the next thing. It's DeepSeek. Next week it's Llama. Next week it's Copilot. Next week it's Chat, and next week it's Gemini. Everything is changing at a pace that sometimes, or it'll be something none of us even know today will be the hottest thing a month from now.
Right.
And the biggest thing for you, all of us, is to lean in to learn. So for me, I am always out there reading. I'm always out there reading, understanding, comprehending what's happening in the era of AI. There's so many sites, podcasts, and it's up to you how you learn. Some of you read, some of you listen, some of you are audio, some of you are video. I know some of you are on YouTube. Every medium has has the content. You just have to find out what is the medium for you. Are you a reader? Are you a listener? Are you a viewer? And find your medium, but be out there learning, reading, because you got to keep yourself updated. This is a fast-moving era. I find myself having so much to read and learn now than I ever did in my 24-year career. And so I'm always there doing that. Whether I'm on the flight coming here, there's something I want to go read up. I have something I want to actually get my hands dirty on. I want to go play with it, not just read about it. Sometimes it's also essential for us to, get in and experience it ourselves. Say, I heard about Operator, let's go find out and spend the $200 to see what does it do. Because you just don't want to read about it. Sometimes reading about it doesn't make you see the possibilities as much as out there when you can. Obviously, not everybody can afford to spend the money, but when you can and you have somebody who has it, going and learning and experiencing hands-on, there's no substitute for that. So use the tools, whether it's DALI or Llama, use as much. Don't be stuck with one. And one of the other things I say in today's day and age is, we're finding out with AI models is there is no one model that does it all. There are unique models. When you're doing video editing, it's a different model. When you're doing image creation, it's a different model. When you're doing authoring, it's a different model. When you're doing reviewing, it's a different model that can do the best. So the tools are so varied, but you've got to use whatever is there, the power of the technology out there, whether it's open AI, whether it's Azure, whether it's, there is enough opportunities for all of us to go out there and learn. And I think you just have to put yourself and create the time and mind space to do it. A lot of times we're so busy doing. And I think that's where one of the advice I give people is, it's not just about doing. You've got to find the time to also learn. And because otherwise you're going to find yourself pretty irrelevant pretty fast. And so I think a follow-up question I had is, have you seen after the development of AI that the
learning curve and the growth curve has increased significantly.
Absolutely. I think everybody all the way up to the C-suite.
Uh-huh.
If you look at the, what is Satya or what is Rajesh, what is, Mustafa, all of them doing, they're all out there, talking to people, talking to customers, getting them abreast with the latest development. You look up and you see every part of the best leaders out there are out, on the cutting edge of understanding what's happening out there.
Right.
You need to be talking to customers. You need to be talking to your partners. You need to be talking to the people out there in the research fields, in the all the realms of where the actual advancements is happening, right? And so when you do that, when you invest yourself, you see there's learning necessary at every level, not just at the what I call entry levels of the organization, all the way to the senior leadership levels of the organization. I think the biggest thing, and I think I love this about Microsoft, at least one of the things that Satya brought into the company, is this notion of learn it all mindset. He couldn't have picked that at a better moment, and he brought that almost 5-10 years ago, where we brought that notion of we need to have this learning. And I remember that's the first thing I think that culturally he brought into the company is this growth mindset, and this growth mindset being about the possibilities and not knowing all, but having this curiosity to go and know that things can be learned. And what better time than now to see the value of that mindset is playing and seeing it in action. And I think that's what's helped Microsoft be at the forefront of the evolution of AI, if you notice. And that learning mindset, that growth mindset is the key for our success, I believe, today and hopefully in the years to come.
Okay. And so I think one message I take away from that personally, software development is just about sitting on your computer trying to code the next idea, but it's trying to get out there, to talking to customers, trying to pitch it to individuals and seeing, what can be changed, what can be modified. Is that what I took correctly?
Absolutely. So talking to people, customers, your potential customers and your customers, and iterating. I would also say in today's day and age, there's nothing without iterating and leveraging AI. I would say an idea without AI in there, I don't think the success of that is going to be as much as an idea that leverages and integrates AI in any way, shape, or form.
Wow, great. And so speaking of, leveraging AI, what technical and soft skills do you think will be the most valuable for software engineers in the next 5 to 10 years, given that, AI is coming and stuff like that?
I think we covered, a bunch of that. You look at technical and soft skills. I think when it comes to technical skills, I think it's about leveraging AI development, AI productivity tools. Every tool out there is being reimagined, whether it's Cursor, whether it's GitHub Copilot. The way we do software development is fundamentally changing. I don't think so. The way I did software development is how my children are going to be doing software development.
Right.
That's number one. I think we need to embrace it, and we need to embrace it with urgency. I would say that's the core of it. The other aspects of it doesn't change anything, right? It's this notion of being customer centric in whatever we do. It's working on what is the problem and what is the value for the customer. That's not changing. So we need to go back to the basics of saying what is the value proposition of the idea, what is the customer problem it's solving, and how is it solving it. And if you nail a problem that is durable, that nobody else can come and emulate, you're going to be there in that space for longer. Sometimes there are problems that are not easy for somebody else to come and solve. So you have to figure out and solve it also in a way that is not easily replicable. Sometimes a lot of times people solve a problem, but then you look at how long will it take for your competitor to solve the same problem. If it takes days, then how durable is your idea? You're going to be so that's then the third comes back to is the soft skills, comes back to your ability to network, connect with people, leverage people, share with people, and also be mentoring them others as well. Not just about one way, it's also about giving. It's like, you get what you give. And so you need to also give your time, your experience, taking the time to see what can you share that is in service of others in a true altruistic manner. Because trust me, it may not be paying off today. 5 years from now, when you are needing help, that very thing you did is what's going to be coming back and paying forward, because you made a difference for someone. That someone will at some point have an opportunity to make a difference for you. You never know when people will come and be of aid to you, especially in this field, in this sector. I always believe in doing it truly for the right altruistic reasons and doing the network, and growing that network also is a key aspect in terms of, this day and age. Is there's a customer, there is the aspect of leveraging AI, and then there's the aspect of how do you, look at, leveraging each other's work as well as contributing to other success.
So I wanted to go based on the point of competition, as you mentioned, but competition drives success. Do you have anything to add to that? So I was thinking like multiple companies or so competition always keeps curiosity, as I would like to put it. And so what do you have to say about that? Obviously, like their competition will catch up, but how do you stay ahead of competition and how do you succeed in competition?
Yeah, I think it comes back to not chasing somebody. Right? You've got to, competition is healthy, but I think you've got to have a point of view of what are you there for, what is your unique point of view, and what is your product or your offering all about. It's not about, and being mindful of where you stand with regard to the competition, but not letting competition drive you. I think there's a difference between that. There are companies out there who are constantly talking about the competition. You can go look up and say which CEO is always talking about the competition. That kinds of shows their mindset is they're actually obsessed about the competition, not using competition as a check, but using competition as their compass. I don't think so. That's going to work really well in today's day and age, where you're actually letting the competition define where you go or what you do. You want to use the competition to validate how good your idea is and how your solution is, and and is resonating with that. And are you going to be able to see how good? And it's like almost like a measuring gauge, but not as a compass, right? And I think that difference matters. Is not letting and chasing somebody, but doing what you are doing because you believe in it, and using the competition as a means to keep yourself on your toes. So I love competition because in the absence of that, sometimes I worry the pace of innovation may slow down. The best, if you look at the biggest innovation curves have all happened when there has been the most healthy competition, whether it's the browser wars, whether it's the cloud wars, whether it's the operating system wars, every major shift, whether it's AI era right now, which is going on. Look at the healthy competition. Look at how many models are out there. Look at how many companies are out there trying to disrupt themselves with AI and infusing AI. Look at how many AI powered development tools are out there. Everybody and the grandmother is looking to figure out how to reimagine software development, which is fantastic because software development will have to see the biggest innovation in a long time because of this healthy competition.
That's very interesting. I think as we're running short on time, we had one last question to ask you. And so like in high pressure environments like big tech, how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance and how do you usually go about in your day? What's your day-to-day work-life schedule?
Yeah, I as I said, right, one of the things for me is, I do what I do because I'm deeply passionate about it. It's not because I'm paid to do it. I would do whatever I'm doing, even if I was not paid to do it. People don't realize it. I know it's not like I want Microsoft to know that. But that's the truth of it, because I go in every day, and my kids know this, because I'm out there doing what I do because I really believe in it. So in that mindset, when you are able to love what you do, then it's no longer a job. People talk about work-life balance. For me, work-life balance is all about making sure your life is working for you and your loved ones, right? That's what work-life balance is for me. It's not the number of hours, because I don't think so. I do the typical hours most people do. I'm not an 8 to 5 person. There are days, many days I'm there in the office around 10, 11, and some days I'm there till 2, 3. I've been doing that as well because there was something I was really obsessed to want to complete. So I had to do it, and I had a loving and understanding family who was supportive to allow me to do it. There are times I've missed dinner, I've missed bedtimes because of my passion of wanting to do it, and I never looked at that as a compromise because I chose to do it. I didn't do it because Microsoft made me do it, or the company made me do it, or my manager made me do it. I did it because I wanted to do it. 99% of the times when I was doing a late night, it was not because somebody made me want to do it. It was because I wanted to do it. So when you feel like you're the boss of yourself, when you feel you're that passionate about what you're doing, then it's about blending life and work and knowing the moments that matter to you so they don't have any regrets. So that's the one thing I tell is make sure whatever you do, you don't end up with having regrets. So whether it's family, so I do know there are times when my kids had a science fair, I had to take the time to do it. So I'm very disciplined about clearing that time and planning it ahead of time to say I'm going to be there for that science fair for my son. I know that today I need to be there for my wife, and for this event I need to go home and I'm going to be. So the moments that matter, you need to be there for them. And I also have this interesting paradigm, and it doesn't work for everybody. Some people talk about blended work and life. I'm a very binary person, so I leave my work behind at work. So when I go home, I have a discipline of not checking my mail. I don't check Teams. I don't do anything work related. But again, I'm very unique in that manner where I know people who are blended it both and say there is work and life and everything blends uniquely. But for me, the thing that worked is to give it all. And when I come home, I'm there fully for them. I'm 100% in my home. I'm 100% with my family. And I leave that work by my mind. I always like a switch. I turn it off and I turn it back on The next day I'm in. Next day I'm in a get on the way in. That's kind of how I do it. For me, that works. I know that for other people there are different avenues. You got to find what works for you, but you just need to know what is your boundaries. You need to know what is important to you in your life, and most important, you need to make sure that you're not doing anything that you're going to regret. That's what I worry about. People is who says like, I did everything for you or the company, and the company didn't give this back to me.
Right.
I'm like, you did it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
Do it because you want to, whether it's a hackathon, or doing it not because I did it because I'm going to get this, into this course in the college. I did it because then I can be making my resume look good. Okay, that's all fine and good, but do it because you want to, not because you were expected to get something in return, and because you regret spending the time because the outcome didn't happen. The outcome can't be something else you wanted. The outcome has to be what you're doing.
Yeah.
So the moment matters, the journey matters, not the destination.
Wow. And to wrap off this conversation, I think we have so much to learn from you. I would like to do like a rapid fire fun questions type of thing really quickly in the next minute or two. So just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Let's get started. So favorite productivity or tool or app?
Recently, M365 Copilot.
Okay.
In the work context, anything, I can pull anything off in terms of work, anything from 20 years ago, it just brings it up on the foreground. Even for this, I just asked it, hey, tell me a little bit of SacHacks so that I can prepare for my interview today. It gave me a quick blurb and I was up and going. I didn't have to do any searches in Google or anything. On the way here, I was reading up and I felt myself pretty knowing
That's
about.
That's amazing. Yeah, no. Best book you've read recently?
I wouldn't say recently, but the best book that has been stuck with me for a while now. I read it, I think, almost 5 years ago. Is Daring Greatly by Brené Brown.
Okay.
It was about growth mindset and in action, and I think I strongly recommend anyone reading it. It's a great read. It's a simple concept, but I think it fundamentally changes your mindset. If you were to, for me, there's a before that and after that, and how I think it's transformed in some ways.
Favorite Microsoft product?
Teams, without a doubt. Teams.
And why Teams?
I think it's the all-inclusive, it's like a, multi-tool, because you have calendaring, you have collaboration, you have communication, have Copilot. Pretty much it does everything, and so it's all integrated in one. And so, whether I'm doing Copilot and whether I'm doing, preparing for a meeting, whether I'm in the meeting, whether I'm pulling together my content, I think it's just the power of what it's able to do is just fundamental. It's transforming every day. Right? It's not the same. The teams of 1 year ago is very different from the teams of today. And so it's continuously, as I said, keeps innovating, and it brings all of this integrated third-party elements also into it, whether it's Slack or, Salesforce, everybody. You can bring all the endpoints. You have Slack as well as a good, healthy competitor. Again, you talk about the innovation on teams. Yeah. I'm a big believer in we innovate when we have healthy competition.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Biggest myth about working in tech?
I think the biggest myth of working in tech is they think it's all about the technology, but in reality, it's as much about working with people.
Okay. One word to describe your leadership style?
I would say passion.
Passion. And dream technology you wish existed, or the next technology you want some of the hackers to develop?
I don't know that I want the hackers to develop. The dream that I wish it existed was time travel, especially the ability to go back in time. I wish I could go back to my college days to relive and do some of these things and participate in some of these things. I would be out there doing this and not just reading about it and studying and all the time. That's what I would do.
Great. Well, that comes to our conclusion. Thank you so much for joining into this fireside chat. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the SacHacks team.
Thank you again for having me. It's a real pleasure.
No, we are so honored that you came here out today. I know
Anytime.
you're on a very short notice, but thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. And thanks for joining in.
Thank you, viewers.
Thank you.